it's John McCabe. Welcome to the show. Hey, welcome to the John A. McCabe Show, where it's all about accelerating your authority in your business or field of expertise. And we do that by helping entrepreneurs, business owners, authors, experts, and speakers get seen, get heard, get noticed on any device, anywhere, anytime, in as little as 15 hours, also known as the Authority Acceleration Blueprint. Now on today's show, Hot Seat Coaching Thursday, I'm going to share with you one of the best ways that you can accelerate your authority and grow your celebrity status in your marketplace right now, and the 5-step planning process that you'll want to use prior to your launch. Now in today's world, people want to do business with people that can solve their problems or help them achieve their desired outcome. Now many times the person they gravitate to or find when they're searching is the person who has positioned themselves as the expert or the trusted authority in their marketplace. Now positioning yourself as the authority, the expert, or having that celebrity status within your market is usually done by having a good grasp of what your ideal target market wants and needs, delivering great value to those clients, and being recognized as a person people want to go to in order to achieve their desired outcome. Now this process can take time to achieve this status and this level, or you can implement strategies that will accelerate your authority at a rapid pace. Now, one great way to accelerate your authority and get positioned in your marketplace is through the use of podcasting. Now, having an outlet where you can educate, influence, and persuade those listening that you know what you're talking about and you can help them with their challenges is a great way to accelerate your authority. Now, the podcast isn't a 20, 30, or 60-minute commercial. However, when structured properly, you can increase your exposure, educate your audience, and give them a way to connect with you through a call to action. But what does it take to set up and launch a podcast? Other than the hardware, what are some of the things that you should know in order to launch the podcast with success so you have a large amount of downloads from the very beginning, getting you noticed on iTunes and making the new and noteworthy section, which as a result will increase your exposure and downloads even more. Now during this episode, I'm going to share with you a 5-step planning process to launching your podcast. Implementing this process will ensure your podcast has a greater chance for success, reaches a wider audience, and establishes you as the authority or celebrity position in your marketplace. In doing this, you'll automatically attract more attention, be seen as giving more value, which in turn will generate you more leads that will enable you to attract an abundance of paying customers. So in order to accomplish those things for yourself, you need to focus on something that will help you get there. Now, this is not a magic bullet button or a silver bullet. It's not going to get you rich overnight without doing some work, but takes putting in some effort and having a plan. Now, repurposing your episodes is also one of the fastest ways that you can create content that can be used to help you become a #1 best-selling author. Now, when I return, I'm going to talk about podcasting, one great way to accelerate your authority, and the 5-step process to plan the launch of your successful podcast. Now, the quicker you implement what I'm going to share, the faster you'll accelerate your authority, grow your business, your brand, and your income. You'll be able to serve more people, make a bigger impact in people's lives, and reach your personal definition of freedom. So don't go away. When I come right back, I'll have an amazing show about accelerating your authority through the use of podcasts. Hey, welcome back and thanks for tuning in today. I have a great show lined up for you on this Hot Seat Coaching Thursday segment of the John A. McCabe Show. And when it comes to accelerating your authority, there's a number of different strategies that you can take to make that happen. Now, the more strategies you implement, the faster your authority will rise. Now, strategies like Facebook Live, becoming a best-selling author, or starting a podcast are just a few methods that you can use to increase your exposure. Now, during some of the past episodes, I've touched on many of these aspects, even had guests on talking about the strategies and how it's helped them and how they're actually using it to position themselves. Now, in today's episode, I'm going to talk about the planning the launch of your first podcast, now, which is something I'm going to be doing very shortly. So this is information I've learned from my research and thought I'd share it with you. Now, I'm not going to get into the hardware or the technical side of starting a podcast, but more the strategy that goes into getting it ready and getting ready to launch one. To do that, I'm going to share with you a 5-step process to planning the launch of your very first podcast to help you accelerate your authority so that you can reach freedom in your life, serve more people, make more money, and grow your business. Now, before we get started with the show, I'm just going to take a quick peek to see who's joining us and giving any shout outs. So I see Russell's joined us today. Hey Russell, how you doing? If you guys have any questions or any comments, please leave them in the comment section of the live video. And please also like, love, share this video with your friends on Facebook. It's greatly appreciated. Now, if you're just joining me, chances are you're a business owner, author, expert, or speaker, and you ultimately got into business for one of two reasons. The first is freedom. Freedom means different things to different people, but to boil it down, basically, you want the time and money to do what you want to do, when you want to do it, with whomever you want to do it. Now, the second reason is that you want to serve others with your unique talents and gifts, make a difference, and impact people's lives. Now, today I'm talking about podcasting, one of the fastest ways for you to accelerate your authority. Specifically, I'm going to share with you a 5-step planning process to launching a successful podcast. So as an entrepreneur, business owner, author, expert, or speaker, you can accelerate your authority, grow your business, grow your brand, and your income while serving more people, making a bigger impact on their lives, and reaching your personal definition of freedom, whatever that is for you. So step 1 of the 5-step process is where I always like to start. It's understanding your ideal target market. Now, when it comes to anything you do with your business, your message, your strategy, you need to be very crystal clear on who your ideal target market is. You need to know what type of people are they? What is their age range? Are they married or single generally? Do they have any children? What's their level of income? What are their likes and dislikes? Where do they shop on a regular basis? Do they buy generic or maybe they buy name brand merchandise? What type of cars do they drive? What type of TV shows do they watch? Do they listen to podcasts? If so, what? What type of books or magazines are they reading? Do they belong to any clubs? So it's very important that you get a clear picture of who your ideal target market is before you start planning the rest of your podcast. Because all of the messaging, everything that you're going to create is going to need to resonate with the people who are listening to your podcast. So understanding your ideal target market is very crucial. You also want to know what are their pains, fears, frustrations, or ambitions. Okay, so what do they want to avoid? Which are the pains that they're going through, the reasons they're searching out a solution to their problem. What are they afraid of? So what are the fears that they have if they don't get this problem solved, if they don't find a solution? What have they tried already that hasn't worked? So what are they frustrated with? So they're trying to achieve a desired outcome. They're trying to solve a problem. They're buying other products or services that they think are going to help them with that. And what's the frustrations that they're having with that? So what have they already tried that hasn't worked already? And what is it that they're wanting to achieve, or what is their desired outcome? Basically, what is their ambition? So understanding what their desired outcome is will really help you when you're planning your podcast segments. Now, much of what you plan should somehow tie into their desired outcome so that so they can draw the conclusion that you're the person who can help them achieve their goals or solve their problems or whatever it is, your product or your service. Typically, I'm talking about podcasting for your business, to grow your business, to help you if you're an entrepreneur, business owner, author, expert, or speaker. Now, this is typically to educate people and hopefully entertain them at the same time. So it's very crucial to lay that foundation, to really understand who you're talking to when you're doing your podcasting. Very much like this show. I understand who my ideal target market is. They're entrepreneurs, business owners, authors, experts, and speakers, and they want to grow their business. They want to make more money. They want to impact more people's lives, and ultimately they want freedom in their life, freedom to do whatever they want to do when they want to do it. So all of the messaging that I am creating, all of the content that I'm putting out there, all of the episodes that I'm doing needs to tie back to the desired outcome that you, the viewer or the entrepreneur, really has for your business. So laying that foundation or that groundwork initially is crucial when it comes to doing anything such as a podcast. Now, sometimes it may be hard to tie it back to your core client and their desired outcome but you should always keep it in mind when you're scheduling your topics for your episodes. Because remember, your ideal target market should be your audience. The whole reason for starting the podcast is to increase and accelerate your authority to your potential target market. Now, in order to do that, you want to make sure that your message, the message you deliver on a regular basis, connects with them. So one thing to remember is that you're trying to attract your ideal target market, elevate your position in your market, increase your audience, and get them to know you, like you, and trust you enough to take that next step, which is really taking action and buying your product or investing in your service, whatever it is. So your goal is to move them from what's called a cold market, which is people who don't know who you are, into a warm market where which are people who know who you are, they know what you do, they follow you, but they haven't purchased from you yet. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to take them from a cold market to a warm market by getting them to know you, to like you, and to trust you throughout your podcast. Now, this is done through the podcast that you're creating because you're providing them with value, you're educating them, you're being honest, you want to be transparent, obviously ethical and moral. So people are going to connect with you, when you're being genuine, when you're being your authentic self. People are going to really want to connect with you, and they're going to resonate with you. Now, once you have them liking you, and liking your message, things that you stand for, it's much easier to move them to take action, which is why it's very important to have that call to action in your podcast segments, throughout your podcast segments, as well as at the very end of your podcast segments. Now, this is where you're going to capture their email address so that you can communicate with them more directly in the future. So as you're going to come to see, all of this foundation will come into play when you're planning and launching your podcast. So that's step one of the 5-step planning process for your podcast, is really to get crystal clear on who your ideal target market is, their pains, fears, frustrations, or their ambitions, and getting them to know you, like you, and trust you. So moving them along that path from a cold market to a warm market and eventually a hot market, who's someone that actually purchased your products or your services. Okay, so that's step number one in the 5-step planning process of the launching your podcast. So if you're just joining me, chances are you're a business owner, author, expert, or speaker, and you ultimately got into business for one of two reasons. The first is freedom. Freedom means different things to different people, but to boil it down, basically you want the time and money to do what you want to do, when you want to do it, with whomever you want to do it with. Now, the second reason is that you want to serve others with your unique talents and gifts, make a difference in the world, and impact people's lives. Now, today I'm talking about podcasting, one of the fastest ways that you can accelerate your authority. Now, specifically, I'm going to share with you the 5-step planning process to launching a successful podcast. So as an entrepreneur, business owner, author, expert, or speaker, you can accelerate your authority, grow your business, grow your brand and your income while you serve more people, make a bigger impact in people's lives, and reach your personal definition of freedom, whatever that definition of freedom is for you. So if you have any questions or any comments about the show, as I'm going through it, just please type them in the chat, and I'll do my very best to address them throughout the show. And if I can't get to them during the show, what I'll do is I will follow up with you at the end of the show. I'll just respond back in chat as well. So I'm just going to do a quick peek to see who's joined us. I see Shirley's joined us, as well as Zaya's joined us as well. So thank you very much for joining me on today's show. And if you have any questions or comments, just leave them in the Facebook chat. And please do me a favor, like, love, share this video with your friends on Facebook, on your Facebook feed, as well as any business pages or groups that you belong to who you feel may benefit from the topic today. It's Hot Seat Coaching Thursday, and specifically I'm talking about podcasting and using podcasting to accelerate your authority. And I'm sharing with you a 5-step process to planning the launch of your podcast. Now, the second step of the podcast launch, planning the podcast launch, is to define your concept and your style. So you need to plan and decide what your overall podcast will be about before you launch, or you run the risk of having a sloppy show. Now, just to talk about my show, for example, when I first started, or even prior to my start, I did a two-week phase where I was just using Facebook Live. I was coming up with the show. I was just, trying anything and everything. I really didn't know what the topics were going to be. So I actually did that pre-test to try to help plan out how I was going to structure the show. So, but with the podcast, the first few episodes are crucial. So you want to plan out in advance how you're going to structure your podcast and what it's going to be about. Now, it's important to decide what will be unique about your podcast. Now, think about why someone would listen. Why should they care? Also, keep your business culture in mind. Your podcast needs to align with your business. As I mentioned before, you need to be in touch with your ideal target market, their pains, fears, frustrations, ambitions, their desired outcome, which is why that's step one. It's really laying the foundation, is understanding that, because you're going to want to tie it back to the foundation of your ideal target market, as I mentioned, and their desired outcomes. So a podcast that's going to hit the top of the charts and stay there needs to be entertaining while providing valuable content on a specific topic that people actually want to listen to. So there's a few different options that I've discovered that you can choose from when it comes to what styles your podcast will follow. So here's some examples of different types I've considered as I'm planning to repurpose and launch my podcast. So think about which would be the best fit for your audience. Now, the first type is interview style podcast. You notice that I do that on a regular basis on the show. I have a guest speaker come in, or a guest come in, and I interview them throughout the hour. This is probably the most common style of podcasting. The host, for my example, myself, conducts an interview in each episode of the podcast. So I don't actually do it on every single episode. When there's days where I don't have a guest scheduled, I will do what I'm doing today, for example, which is an education style podcast, live show. So what you'll want to do is determine if the interview style podcast is what you're going to want to do in planning your podcast. Now, another one is a location-based podcast. Now, this type of podcast centers on the location that it's recorded in. So for an example, maybe if you had a business of reviewing restaurants, then what you might want to do is you would actually go to the restaurant itself and conduct the podcast from that location. So you would travel around to various locations and conduct your podcast from that particular location. And that's a location-based podcast. So that's two different types. Now, the third type is a storytelling podcast. Now, this type of podcast is basically just like the name says, it tells a story, where the first episode of the podcast is the beginning of the story, and the last episode of the podcast is the conclusion of the story. And each story basically builds off the last one and moves the story forward. Now, that's not something that I would be using in my particular podcast, storytelling podcast. I don't foresee me using that structure. Maybe the location-based one I'm in discussion with and talking to some business owners about the Friday Anything Goes show, about actually conducting it from their location, and where I can actually talk to them about their business and give them coaching advice and help as well. Now, the next type is a teaching podcast, very much like I'm doing today, where the episode instructs its listener on a particular topic. So that's just what I'm doing today. I'm sharing with you how to use podcasting to accelerate your authority and the 5-step process to planning the launch of your podcast. So that's a teaching podcast. That's also very, very popular. And the last one is a mix. So it could be teaching, it could be interview, case studies, or stories. And that's really what I do with my show. It's really a mix. The majority of the time, I'll actually do interviews. There are times when I don't have a guest scheduled and I'll actually do teaching. Hot Seat Thursday, a lot of times when I have somebody in here, it's an actual case study because I'm coaching them live on the show. And stories is typically on the entrepreneur journey, is people telling their stories of getting into entrepreneurship and the challenges that they've actually had. So it's a style or a cross between teaching listeners, interviewing experts, examining case studies, things like that. So just like your podcast needs a consistent style, each episode needs a theme or a concept as well. So knowing the central idea for the episode will help keep the episode organized, help you as a host stay on track, and also make it easier for your listener to follow. Now, when planning your episodes, you might want to use a mind map, because that can come in handy. Now, it's a visual thinking tool to help you structure your show, recap or recall previous ideas, and also help to generate new ones. Now, you don't have to map out like 6 months, for example, but it's vital to know where you're going, or you're going to risk creating disorganized episodes, which won't help you get or keep subscribers. Now, this is especially important if your episodes build on one another, for example. Now, your mind map isn't set in stone. As you can continue your podcast, you'll see what people are responding to the most, and maybe you're going to create new shows based on that information. Or perhaps it's a timely topic, such as a case study. It may present itself that you want to do a show on, for example. So the moral of the story, have a plan and a concept for each episode before you record it so that you know where you're going to go. But also make it very flexible. So that's the second step of the podcast, is defining your concept and your style. So how is it what style are you going to use? As I mentioned, I'm using a mix between teaching, interviewing, case studies, stories. I'm using a real mix of everything with my show. So I'll actually be using something very similar, because all of the show content that I'm creating is going to get turned into my podcast episodes. So I'm just going to repurpose what I'm using right now for the show and turn it into podcasts, because people consume things in different mediums. Some people like to watch videos. Some people like to download podcasts so they can listen to them as they're traveling. Some people like to read it in books or blogs. So you want to make sure that you are in all the different mediums available to you. So if you're just joining me, chances are you're a business owner, author, expert, or speaker, and you ultimately got into business for one of two reasons. The first is freedom. Freedom means different things to different people, but to boil it down, basically you want the time and money to do what you want to do, when you want to do it, with whomever you want to do it. Now, the second reason is that you want to serve others with your unique talents and gifts, make a difference, and impact people's lives. Now, today I'm talking about podcasting, one of the fastest ways that you can accelerate your authority. Specifically, I'm going to share with you the 5-step planning process to launching a successful podcast. So as an entrepreneur, business owner, author, expert, or speaker, you can accelerate your authority, grow your business, grow your brand and your income, serve more people, make a bigger impact in people's lives, and reach your personal definition of freedom. So as mentioned, if you're just joining us, if you have any questions about the content or the show, just type it in the chat and I'll do my best to get to it throughout the show. And if I don't get to it throughout the show, then I'll follow up with you after the show is already concluded in the Facebook chat. And please do me a favor, love, share this content on your Facebook feed, as well as in any business pages or any groups that you're associated with who may get some value out of today's show. Okay, so now you know what your theme is going to be. It's time to get busy recording your first episode. And these are sometimes called pillar episodes. Now keep in mind, these 3 episodes will serve as legs of your podcast and be the first impression. So in effect, they're the foundation of your podcast. Now these pillar episodes are great for referencing back to them from future episodes. So you want to use your first 3 episodes to build the foundation of your podcast. You're going to reference back to these 3 episodes often by mentioning them during the podcast and linking back to them in your show notes. Your show notes which lists all of the episodes and provides links to the resources that you're going to mention during the episode. You also want to reference your show notes throughout the episode so that you can send traffic back to your website, and you're going to use Facebook Pixel or Google Pixel to pixel these people, which are really high quality leads. It gives you the ability to retarget those people and market to them directly a little bit later on. Now, another thing you want to, with regards to the creating the pillars, is it keeps you from repeating yourself. These pillar episodes improve the flow of your show dramatically. Instead of repeatedly explaining a fundamental concept, you'll simply reference one of these pillar episodes so that the people will, if they aren't sure, they'll go back, they'll download that previous episode. Maybe they'll get some of the reference in the show notes. They'll go to your website to get that information. So all of that is done to get more downloads and to drive people to your website, which helps you to target and market to those people a little bit later on. Now, the next thing that the pillar episodes are good for is it's really great for your rankings because you're constantly referring back to previous episodes. So listeners will have a reason to go back and download those past episodes. iTunes loves to see that people aren't just listening and downloading the latest and greatest episode, but are consuming multiple episodes. Now, this will help you maintain consistent downloads, and it's more on the importance of consistent downloads. I'm going to talk a little bit more on the importance of consistent downloads in just a few minutes. But when you launch your podcast, you want to launch with 3 episodes because it serves as your hook for your audience and gives you the opportunity to create a solid first impression. Now, you also have 3 episodes for the newcomers to download versus just 1. So it's basically 3 times the amount of downloads that you're going to get when you first launch. But how do you come up with these 3 pillar episodes? What you want to do is look at your blog, your YouTube channel, any content that you've already created, any of the other mediums where you've created content, and you're going to try to figure out what are the most popular topics, the foundational posts that really interested people. Now, that content that resonated with your audience can be repurposed and serve as your podcast pillar posts. But if you don't know the best content or the most popular content for you, there's 2 resources that you can go and check out to try to find some content that has a lot of traction, has a lot of people talking about it. One area that you can go is a website called BuzzSumo, BuzzSumo. That's a great place to go to determine, if people are talking about a specific phrase. And another one is Google AdWords, and you can go and determine if people are searching for those specific phrase words that are tied to what it is you do or your business. Now, these 2 tools will tell you what's the most popular content right now, what people are searching for the most, and can serve as inspiration for any podcast episodes. So, for instance, you might want to for Facebook Live, maybe you want to do a show all about Facebook Live. So what you do is go into BuzzSumo and type in Facebook Live and see how much content or how many times people are talking about Facebook Live as a search term. So maybe that is something that you can actually create content on, and it's an episode that will generate a lot of traction. So just for example, so that is the third step third step of the process for planning your launch of your podcast channel. So if you're just joining me, chances are you're a business owner, an author, expert, or speaker, and you ultimately got into business for 1 of 2 reasons. The first is freedom. Freedom means different things to different people, but to boil it down, basically you want to have the time and money to do what you want to do, when you want to do it, with whomever you want to do it with. Now, the second reason is that you want to serve others with your unique talents and gifts, make a difference, and impact people's lives. Now, today I'm talking about podcasting, one of the fastest ways that you can accelerate your authority. Specifically, I'm sharing with you a 5-step planning process to launching a successful podcast. So you as an entrepreneur, business owner, author, expert, or speaker, you can accelerate your authority, grow your business, grow your brand and your income, serve more people, make a bigger impact in people's lives, and reach your personal definition of freedom. So if you have any questions or any comments about the topic today, just type them in the Facebook chat, and I'll get to them throughout the show. And also, please do me a favor and love, share this feed on your Facebook, on your Facebook groups, and any pages that you manage that you think is where the topic or the show is relevant to your audience. So just do some shout outs. I see Wendy's joined us. Thanks for joining, Wendy. And I'm just going to do a quick refresh on my phone because I think I'm losing some of the feed here. It just keeps coming in and out. So I'm just doing a quick refresh. There we go. And Nobby's joined us as well. Welcome, Wendy and Nobby. And so, as mentioned, I'm talking about podcasting and specifically the 5-step planning process to launching a successful podcast. Now, the 4th step of the process is to launch with a contest. Think about launching with a contest. Now, when you first launch, you want to create as much momentum and buzz as possible. So a contest can really help you with that and help you increase your rankings. For your podcast to rank, for example, you want people to go to your podcast. You want them to download your first 3 episodes, which are your pillar episodes. You want them to subscribe in your podcast channel, and you want them to leave a review. Now, this shows iTunes that your podcast is really great, which will help you move up in the charts. Now, you want positive reviews, obviously. So make sure that your content is really outstanding. It's really relevant to your audience. Now, contests can help you get the downloads, subscribers, and the ratings that you need. Now, launching with a contest will help you hit number 1 in your category. It will also help you get on the new and noteworthy list and hopefully keep you there for numerous weeks. You can be on the new and noteworthy for up to a maximum of 8 weeks on iTunes. So when you use a contest, make sure that your prize is specific to your marketplace. You want the gift to really appeal to your audience. Your contest prize shouldn't be something that appeals to the masses because you aren't trying to attract everybody. You're working on gathering people who will actually find value from your podcast. For instance, if your podcast is about fishing, you wouldn't want to give away a laptop or a tablet because you'll get just about everybody applying to try to win the laptop or the tablet. Even if they have no interest in fishing, they'll go and they'll download the episodes, they'll leave a review, they'll do the 4 steps that you want them to take. However, they're not your ideal audience, so it really doesn't make a lot of sense other than you're going to get, the people initially that's going to drive up your rankings, but really that doesn't do much for your business overall. So you want to make it very specific, an appealing prize to your audience. So if you're in the fishing industry, for example, and you're doing a fishing podcast, something like a fishing rod or tactic or tackle, that's really relevant to your audience. So giving away something like that to a fishing audience is going to bring in and attract, your ideal target market. So also, you don't want to have your podcast audience built prior to your launch. If you don't have your podcast audience built prior to your launch, giving away a prize that's really relevant to your prospective listeners will make them more likely to engage. So if you don't have a list that you can go to and to drive traffic to your podcast channel, if you don't have a large following, using a contest is a great way to go out to a cold audience and drive them to your podcast and potentially download your episodes, leave some reviews, and do that 4-step process that's going to make iTunes happy. So It's a great way to increase your exposure. Now, when launching your podcast, here's some things that you want to take into consideration. You want to call on your community and your marketplace to help launch your podcast. Make them aware of your podcast and ask them to share it. That's very important because obviously they already know you, like you, and trust you. So having them reach out to their connections to recommend your podcast and help you drive traffic, can definitely be an advantage. Excuse me. Ask your friends to share the podcast and its contests. Ask big media properties in your market to share the podcast contests. So people who have influence, for example, going to them and asking them to share the message as well. And also partnering with people in your market that already have an existing audience and ask them to share your podcast. Now, over the course of the contest, which you'll probably want to run for about 2 weeks, you can call on your current audience and community for support. You can tell them you're starting a podcast and ask them for their help in getting it to rank. Ask people to subscribe and leave a review of whatever your podcast name is. Now, after completing these steps, they could enter the contest. You want to send out emails. You may want to send them, maybe 3 over the span of 2 weeks out to your list to try to get them to go to your podcast channel, to subscribe, to download, to leave a review, and to enter the contest. You want to distribute the contest over the media that you already own. So if you already own a Facebook page and you have quite a few followers, if you have a Twitter account or an Instagram account or Snapchat account and you have a large number of following, so you'll want to distribute the contest over those media as well. And maybe you're also going to run some ads, some paid advertising to cold traffic. So people have never heard of you before, like in Facebook, for example. That's another place that you can try to attract some people, exposing the contest that you're doing in the for the anticipation of the launch of your podcast channel to help you accelerate your authority. Now, there's many ways to help increase initial traffic to your podcast. However, implementing a contest and reaching out to people to help spread the word and following through with these steps to gaining entry can go a long way to helping you rank your podcast. So that's step number 4 of the 5-step process to planning your podcast launch, is potentially thinking about running a contest, over a 2-week time frame when you're just launching your podcast to help increase the exposure. So if you're just joining me, chances are you're a business owner, author, expert, or speaker, and you ultimately get into business for one of 2 reasons. The first is freedom. Freedom means different things to different people. But to boil it down, basically, you want the time and the money to do what you want to do, when you want to do it, with whomever you want to do it. The second reason is that you want to serve others with your unique talents and gifts, making a difference and impacting people's lives. Now, today I'm talking about podcasting, one of the fastest ways to accelerate your authority. Specifically, I'm going to share with you a 5-step planning process to launching a successful podcast. So as an entrepreneur, business owner, author, expert, or speaker, you can accelerate your authority, grow your business, grow your brand and your income, serve more people, make a bigger impact in people's lives, and reach your personal definition of freedom. So I just want to comment on some of the chats in the Facebook feed. If you have any questions, just type them in the Facebook chat and I'll get to them throughout the show. And if I can't get to them throughout the show, what I'll do is I will address them after the show is already concluded in the Facebook chat as well. And Wendy says, do I have to be a tech expert? No, Wendy, you don't have to be a tech expert to launch a podcast channel, but there are some specific technical things that you'll need. Since I already know you, Wendy, I know you have a mic. I know you have a Mac with GarageBand. That's all you need to actually create the podcast. Then it's a matter of uploading the MP3 to your specific podcast channel if you're using iTunes or some of the other podcast channels. So many great ideas, but I'm having a hard time even uploading something to Dropbox. Well, if that's the case, Wendy, then you might want to reach out to somebody and just have them set it initially set it up for you, and then once it's set up and they walk you through the process, or I know a good friend of mine, Winnie Anderson, has a course on setting up a podcast channel. So reaching out to people like that, maybe going through some how-to videos to learn how to do it yourself, or initially hiring somebody to set it up for you initially, so that all you have to do is create the podcast and then they look after all the tech parts. So I find a lot of people are tech challenged when it comes to doing things like the podcast, when it comes to doing the Facebook show, Facebook Live, for example. A lot of people want to do Facebook Live, but they are not sure how to do it. They want a more professional show, similar to mine, as opposed to just using their phone and holding it up like that. So finding somebody that's doing what you want to do, and working with them and hiring them to help you out is a great way to move forward. So now the fifth and final step in the process is to continue to generate buzz. So the fifth and final step in the 5-step planning process is to continue to generate buzz. Now you can only be in new and noteworthy for 8 weeks. So what do you do after your initial 8 weeks? So remember, this is the planning process. What I'm going through is the 5-step planning process to launching your podcast. So this is stuff that you're going to have to map out in advance. Now, even though you've already, we're talking now about continuing to generate buzz once it's already, your podcast is already up and running. But this is the planning process that goes into it before you even record that first episode. You're going to need to want to know what the strategy is going to be once you launch. You're going to want to know what the strategy is going to be after that. So that's the fifth and final step to planning the process, is to continue to generate buzz. Now you can only be, as I mentioned, new and noteworthy for 8 weeks. So what do you do after the initial 8 weeks? Now, to continue creating buzz and generating downloads, you need to create a distribution schedule. So the fifth step is planning and helping you plan that distribution schedule. The mistake you don't want to make is to publish your episode on a specific day. Let's say you're going to publish on Monday, and you distribute that episode through ads, through email, and social media all on that same day. So that's a huge mistake that people will make, is they'll upload their episode on a specific day. We're going to say it's Monday, and they do all of their distribution on that day as well. So they do all of their Facebook ads, they do all of their emails to their list, and they're promoting it all over social media on Monday. Now, the reason that's a big mistake is that you'll be getting big peaks in your downloads on Monday, and then your downloads will fall off drastically for the rest of the week. So you just basically have one big peak, and then it's pretty flatline for the rest of the week. The peaks and valleys in your downloads won't help you rise in the ranks of iTunes. To iTunes, they are looking more for consistent downloads, proof of quality podcasts, and that's what you need to aim for in order to rank and continue to generate buzz, is consistency. So you don't want your downloads to spike. You want a more gradual amount of downloads. So what you'll want to do is to diversify your distribution schedule. So you want to plan this all out. For example, your new episode goes live on Monday. So the people who are already on your list will already be notified that there's a new episode. That are already subscribed, they'll be notified there's a new episode, and a lot of them it'll download automatically. Now you may want to email your list or send an email out to your list on, say, Wednesday, to tell them that to try to get them to subscribe and to download the new episode. So if they're not already a subscriber, you're mailing to your list on Wednesday and letting them know that there's a new episode, what it is, to try to get them to download that episode and potentially become a new subscriber. So you're launching on Monday, you're emailing your list on Wednesday, and then maybe throughout the entire week on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you're placing ads, you're promoting that episode on social media and paid ads, and maybe you're doing email banners or whatever it is you're doing. Every other day you're promoting that episode to cold audience as well as warm audience, as well as some of your past episodes. So it's just as important to have people going back and downloading past episodes as it is the current episode, because iTunes is looking for not only people downloading the current episode, but going back and getting those older episodes as well. So that's sort of a strategy for planning your distribution. So before you launch your podcast, you need to plan having a diversified distribution schedule is very important. So what does your distribution schedule look like throughout the week to ensure you're getting consistent downloads? It's all about being really consistent in your distribution while also diversifying your distribution. So using different mediums to actually drive people to download the episode and to download previous episodes. So using your list, using paid traffic, using social media that you already own, getting other people to promote it as well is a great way. So one note, it's important to be consistent with the day your episode goes live. So don't post an episode on a Monday, then the next week you post it on a Wednesday, and then back to a Tuesday. So if you're going to commit to doing an episode a week, you want to be consistent on the day that you launch the day that you launch the episode. You want to be consistent so that you're delivering the episode every single Monday, for example. So you train your listeners when to expect a new episode. Okay, so that's the 5 steps planning process to creating a podcast that's going to help accelerate your authority. Like I said, this episode isn't about getting into actually doing the podcast, but really the planning phase. What do you need to consider before you actually launch a podcast? So these 5 steps you really need to think about and you need to consider when you're planning to launch a podcast. Okay, so if you're just joining me, chances are you're a business owner, author, expert, or speaker, and you ultimately get into business for one of 2 reasons. The first is freedom. Freedom means different things to different people, but basically, to boil it down, you want more time and more money to do the things you want to do when you want to do it with whomever you want to do it. Now, the second reason is that you want to serve others with your unique talents and gifts, make a difference, and impact people's lives. Now, today I'm talking about podcasting, one of the fastest ways that you can accelerate your authority. And specifically, I want to share with you a 5-step planning process to launching a successful podcast. So as an entrepreneur, business owner, author, expert, or speaker, you can accelerate your authority, grow your business, grow your brand, grow your income, serve more people, make a bigger impact on people's lives, and reach your personal definition of freedom. So if you have any questions or any comments, please type them in the chat, and I'll try to get to them throughout the show. And do me a favor, like, love, share this video on your Facebook feed. It's greatly appreciated. And just checking, see if anyone, doesn't look like there's anybody new that's joined us, or any new comments. So now I've just shared with you the 5 steps of planning the launch of your podcast. But here's a few podcasting tips to know about in order to keep subscribers and download numbers high after you launch. Okay, so we just went through the 5 steps of planning your launch, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through a few tips for you to know in order to keep your subscribers and your download numbers high even after you've launched. Now, the first tip is maybe you want to create a mini series of podcasts. So this is creating episodes that have more than one part. So part 1, part 2, part 3, for example. Maybe you're going to do an interview and it's a longer interview and you cut it up into 2 or 3 different interviews. Now, these are extremely powerful episodes because they essentially leave people hanging. It makes people want to come back to know the end result or know the end of the story. Okay. Now, tip number 2, for example, is having guests or guest hosts on your show. Now, you want to invite guests on your show that will both draw an audience and interest your audience at the same time. Also, the guest is likely to share the podcast with his or her audience. After the show goes live, ask the guest to share the episode on their social platform or with their list. So having people on your podcast show that have a large influence or a large following will definitely help with the download or getting people to that particular episode, and chances are once they listen to that one episode, they're going to download other episodes as well. So having people on as guests or guest hosts, especially if they have a large following or they're influencers in their marketplace. Now, tip number 3 is to reference. Again, you want to continue to reference past episodes, which will keep downloads on older episodes high, so you remain consistent in iTunes. It's not about just people downloading the current episode. You always want to keep driving people back to previous episodes so that they're constantly being downloaded as well. Now, you also, throughout each episode, you want to reference those past episodes that flesh out a topic more than the current episode. So if you're talking about a specific topic, but you already completed a full podcast on that topic and you get into more detail, you just want to reference that past episode so that people can go back to get more details in that particular episode. And also reference the show notes, because the show notes you want to keep on your website. So by referencing the show notes, you're driving the traffic to your website, where you're going to actually pixel the people, and they're going to become some quality leads. So number 3 tip is reference. Tip number 4 is to breadcrumb your future episodes. Now what that means is you want to include a little teaser or mention of what people can expect in future episodes. This gives the listener something to look forward to, a reason to not only anticipate your podcast in the future, but also to come back. So you want to leave some breadcrumbs or some clues as to what they can expect in some future episodes. So that's tip number 4. Now, tip number 5 is the episode title itself. Now, the title of your episode is really important. It's pretty much everything. An effective title will simultaneously state that episode's topic or theme, as well as convince people to stop what they're doing and listen to that particular episode. They want to use the title to pique people's interest or touch on one or two of your market's pain points. You want to be sure to give yourself the necessary time to craft a strong episode title. Excuse me. One thing you might want to do is hire a copywriter to produce some awesome titles for you. And when you start a podcast, don't feel that you have to, cookie cutter a podcast that's already having success. Take bits and pieces from really popular podcasts that feel most natural to you and best for your business. So take a little bit from this podcast, a little bit from that podcast, take an idea from this other podcast, and really make your own podcast using what you like about these, these very successful podcasts, and just try to make it your own. Now, another thing is valuable content and consistency are the keys to a successful podcast. So really, get out there, start planning, go through the 5-step planning process, and start podcasting. And as you move forward with your podcast, there's a few things you want to remember. A podcast is not a sales medium. It's a valuable first medium that will help generate goodwill and establish your brand and you as the authority. So you're really giving value to your listeners. Have a plan for both your podcast journey and your episodes. So you want to know in advance sort of where it's going. And by planning it out, you have a better chance of ensuring that you're speaking to your ideal target market, as well as helping them achieve their desired outcome. You want to record and launch the first 3 pillar episodes. That's really the foundation of your business. The things that people are really interested in, and you've done some research to figure out what those 3 pillars are. You definitely want to cross-link and refer back to old episodes whenever applicable to help maintain your download levels. Remember, it's not always about downloading the current episode. You want to drive people back as much as possible to download previous episodes of your podcast, so that iTunes sees that you have a consistent download. Your episodes are being downloaded consistently. And you want to create a varied distribution schedule to avoid peaks and valleys in your downloads. So you want a nice, even or going up curve, a curve that goes up for the number of downloads on any given day. So you don't want to drop everything on Monday and let everybody know on Monday that your episode has been delivered. You want to do it throughout the week and use a variety of different methods, such as your email list, such as social media, such as paid traffic, any banner ads maybe, and you're not just talking about your current episode, but driving people to previous episodes as well. And lastly, you want to make sure that you write show notes that pique interest and convey the benefit of the episode, and you want to post that on your website, and you want to reference that in the episodes themselves. So you're driving people to your website, and on your website is where you're pixeling these people with Facebook pixels or Google pixels, so that you can target them afterwards using paid advertising. So those are some great things that you can remember when it comes to your podcast. So hopefully that helps with the plan that you have for creating a podcast. If you didn't have a plan for creating a podcast, maybe you'll put one together. You'll use these five steps for planning your podcast, and you will make it extremely effective and extremely valuable tool for you moving forward to help accelerate and to accelerate your authority and establish you as the expert or celebrity in your marketplace, which is going to increase not only your brand, your recognition, but your income, and enable you to serve more people and give more value to the people that you do serve, so that you can reach that freedom, whatever freedom looks like for you. So that's it for the podcasting episode, but please stay with me for just a second, and I'll be right back with closing remarks for today's show. Well, thanks for joining me on today's John A. McCabe Show, where we work with entrepreneurs, business owners, authors, experts, and speakers get seen, get heard, get noticed anywhere, anytime, on any device. Now, also known as the Authority Acceleration Blueprint. Now, if you're someone who's looking to take your business to the next level and want to get some coaching advice, why not apply to be a guest on today's show? Now, for most entrepreneurs, we want to create a life of our own, create our own path, and do what we can to reach our own desired outcome, which is generally freedom. Freedom to choose what we want to do, when we want to do it, and with whom we want to do it. A life that's full of options and choices, where we worry less about money and more about the quality of time that we spend with others. Now, a great way to make that happen is to leverage other people's knowledge, time, and skill sets. Step one to reaching our freedom life is to realize that you can't do it alone. Working with a coach or being involved in masterminds is a great way for entrepreneurs to move their business forward. Now, a coach can help you shorten the time frame to get you from where you are to where you want to be, while being part of a mastermind is meant to bring entrepreneurs together, all with the goal of helping each other move forward with their business. Now, the second step to creating the life you envision for yourself as an entrepreneur is to implement systems into your business so you can streamline your operations, leverage systems, and free up your time to focus on your family, having fun, and the highest leverage activities in your business. The activities that get you the biggest return on your time invested, the ones that truly make you money. Now, sometimes we just don't know what systems we need, how to implement those systems, or even have the time to find out what is needed. Now, working with a coach or consultant that understands, uses, and specializes in systems that can streamline your operations can help save you time, aggravation, and make you a lot more money. Now, for example, having a system or strategy that allows you to leverage just 15 hours of your time into enough repurposed content to get you seen, get you heard, get you noticed anywhere, anytime, on any device is a great example of leverage. Now, just imagine a system where you invest just 15 hours of your time, and the end result is you're a #1 best-selling author. You have enough content that's going to get you seen, get you heard, get you noticed anywhere, anytime, on any device. You have a successful podcast. Now, it's automatically attracting more attention, giving more value, and generating more leads, which enables you to attract an abundance of paying customers. Now, this is also known as the Authority Acceleration Blueprint. Now, to find out more about the Authority Acceleration Blueprint coaching program or mastermind, then contact me via my website at johnamccabe.com or connect with me through my show's Facebook page. Now, again, thank you for joining us on today's show, and I look forward to seeing you on tomorrow's show when I have another great guest on discussing their business and accelerating their authority. So have yourself an amazing day, and I look forward to seeing you again real soon.